Hi all, welcome to i-tutor Academy. In today's session, we will start with Unit 9, subsection 6 of MMPC 010, that is cost function and its determinants. So, cost function express the relationship between cost and its determinants, such as the size of plant, level of output, input prices, technology, managerial efficiency, etc. So in a mathematical form, it can be expressed as like this: C is equal to F of SOPTE. What is this? S is plant size, C is cost is here, and O is output level, P is prices of input used in production, T is nature of technology, E is managerial efficiency, and determinants of cost function. So the cost of production depends on many factors, and these factors vary from one firm to another firm in the same industry or from one industry to another industry. And the main determinants of a cost function are plant size, output level, price of or prices of input used in production, nature of technology, managerial efficiency. So one by one, we will discuss what is plant size. Plant size is an important variable in determining cost. And output level, and the total cost are positively related, as the total cost increases with the increase in output, and total cost decreases with the decrease in output. And price of input, changes in input prices also influence cost depending on the relative usage of the inputs and relative changes in their prices. This is because more money will have to be paid to those input whose prices have increased, and there will be no simultaneous reduction in the cost from any other sources. Technology is a significant factor in determining cost. By definition, improvement in technology increases production, leading to increase in productivity and decrease in production cost. And managerial efficiency, this is another factor influencing the cost of production. More the managerial efficiency, less the cost of production. It is difficult to measure managerial efficiency quantitatively. And however, a change in cost at a point of time may explain how organizational or managerial change with the firm have brought about cost efficiency, provided it is possible to exclude the effect of the factor. And next is estimation of cost function. So several methods exist for the measurement of the actual cost output relation for a particular firm or a group of firm, but the three broad approaches, accounting, engineering, and econometric, are the most important and commonly used. Accounting method, this method is used by the cost accountants, and in this method the cost output relationship is estimated by classifying the total cost into fixed, variable, and semi-variable cost. These components are then estimated separately. The average variable cost, the semi-variable cost, which is fixed over a certain range of output, and fixed costs are determined on the basis of inspection and experience. The total cost, the average cost, and the marginal cost for each level of output can then be obtained through a simple arithmetic procedure. And although the accounting method appears to be quite simple, so it is a bit cumbersome, as one has to maintain a detailed breakdown of cost over a period of arrive at good estimate of actual cost output relationship. And one must have experience with a wide range of fluctuation in output rate to come up with accurate estimate. And next is engineering method. The engineering method of cost estimation is based directly on the physical relationship of input to output and uses the price of input to determine cost. This method of estimating real world cost function rests clearly on the knowledge that the shape of any cost function is dependent on the production function and the price of input. So in earlier unit, we discussing the estimation of production function, that for a given the production function and input prices, the optimum input combination for a given output level can be determined, and the resultant cost curve can then be formulated by multiplying each input in the least cost combination by its price. To develop the cost function, this method is called engineering method, as the estimations of least cost combination are provided by engineers. Okay, so this is engineering method, and the assumption made while using this method is that both the technology and factor price are constant This method may not always give the correct estimate of cost as the technology and factor price do change substantially over a period of time, and therefore this method is more relevant for a short run. Also, this method may be useful if good historical data is difficult to obtain, but this method requires a sound understanding of engineering and a detailed sampling of the different process under the control condition, which may not always be possible. An econometric method, this method is also sometimes called a statistical method and is widely used for estimating cost function. Under this method, the historical data on cost and output are used to estimate the cost output relationship. The basic technique of regression is used for this purpose. The data could be a time series data of a firm in the industry or of all firm in the industry, or a cross section data for a particular year from various firm in the industry. And depending on the kind of data used, we can estimate short run or long run cost function. For instance, this time series data of a firm whose output capacity has not changed much during the sample period is used. The cost function will be short run, and on the other hand, if cross section data of many firms with varying sizes or the time series data of the industry as a whole is used, the estimated cost function will be long run one. And the procedure for estimation of cost function involves three steps. First, the determinants of cost are identified. Second, the functional form of the cost function is specified. Third, the functional form is chosen. And then the basic technique of regression is applied to estimate the chosen functional form. And this is linear cost function and quadratic cost function and cubic cost function, functional forms of cost function. And when all the determinants of cost are chosen and the data collection is complete, the alternative functional form can be estimated by using regression software package on a computer. The most appropriate form of the cost function for decision making is then chosen on the basis of the principles uh, of economic theory and statistical inference. And once the constants in the total cost function are estimated using regression techniques, the average cost, that is AC, and marginal cost, that is MC, functions for chosen form of cost function will be calculated. The TC, AC, and MC cost function for different functional form of total cost function and their typical graphical representation and interpretation are explained below. That is linear cost function first of all, that is TC, and the typical TC, AC, and MC curve that are based on a linear cost function are shown figure 9.4. Okay, then B is quadratic cost function and C is cubic cost function. So this is 9.4 figure, that is cost curve based on linear function. Okay, so please go through your study material also. So here is output, and in y-axis there is cost per unit of output is here. And figure 9.5 is here, that is all about cost curve based on quadratic cost function. And 9.6 is cost curve based on cubic cost function. And next is, this is also the cubic cost function. Okay, so please refer these figures and it will more clear, and try to use your IGNOU study material for this. And here is an example of using estimate cost function, so please go through it. These are the examples. Okay, how to use in examples. And short run and long run cost function estimate, the same sorts of regression technique you can be used to estimate short run cost function and long run cost functions. And however, it is very difficult to find cases where the scale of fame has changed but technology and other relevant factors has remain constant, and thus it is hard to use time series data to estimate long run cost functions. And generally, regression analysis based on cross section data has been used instead, especially a sample of firms of various sizes chosen and a firm's TC is regressed on its output, as well as other independent variables such as regional differences in wage rate or other input price. And figure 9.7 is here, typical long run average cost curve. Okay, and please go through your study material. Many studies of long run cost function that have been carried out found that there are very significant economies of scale at low output level, but that these economies of scale tended to diminish as output increases, and that the long run average cost function eventually become close to horizontal axis at high output levels. And therefore, in contrast to the U-shaped curve, that is figure 9.1 is that, which is often postulated in microeconomic theory, and the long run average cost curve tended to be L-shaped, that is on 9.7, figure 9.7. Okay. And problem in estimation of cost function. What are the problem? And we confront certain problem while attempting to derive empirical cost function from economic data. Some of these problems are briefly discussed below. So one is collecting cost and output data. We must be certain that they are properly paired, and that is the cost data applicable to the corresponding data on output. And second is, we must also try to obtain data on cost and output during a time period when the output has been produced at relatively even rate. And third one is, the cost is normally collected and recorded by accounts for their own purpose and in the manner that it makes the information less than perfect from the perspective of economic analysis. Fourth is, for a situation in which more than one product is being produced with given productive factors, it may not be possible to separate cost according to output in a meaningful way. And one simple approach of allocating cost among various products is based on the relative proportion of each product in the total output. And fifth is, since price change over time, any money value cost would therefore relate partly to output change and partly to price change. In order to estimate the cost output relationship, the impact of price change on cost need to be eliminated by the deflating the cost data by price indices. And finally, there is a problem of choosing the functional form of equation or curve that would fit the data best. And the accounting and engineering method are more appropriate than the econometric method for estimating the cost function at the firm level, while the econometric method is more suitable for estimating the cost function at the industry or national level. And therefore, there has been a growing application of the economic method at the macro level, and there are good prospects for its use even at the micro level. However, it must be understood that the three approaches discussed above are not competitive but are rather complementary to each other. They supplement each other, and the choice of a method therefore depend upon the purpose of study, time, and expense consideration. So this is about today's session, and next subsession of this chapter we will discuss on next video. And for more MBA series, you just do like, share, and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.
i-tutor Academy presents IGNOUMBA Complete Syllabus Coverage Classes for individual students, semester-wise subject with online flexible timing. For more details, contact on +91 623 827 1885.